Gamebreaker TV.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this special edition of GuildCast for February 23rd, 2012. I am Gary Gannon, and joining me today is the Arenanet dev team. I don't even know who's here, guys. We got a full house. Thanks for joining me. Who's here?
Hey, guys. So I'm Jonathan Sharp.
Hi there, Martin Kerstein.
And I'm Mike Zadorozhny.
Full house.
Or
Thanks.
Mike Z.
Mike Z.
Mike Z, as he's known here. Yeah.
First of all, congratulations on quite a successful beta weekend. I had a fantastic time in the weekend. I'm thinking everything went well for you guys. Have you gotten some sleep since then?
We had a really fun weekend.
That's an understatement.
To put it mildly, yeah.
Did you sleep at
Let's
all?
put it this way, many of us were here the entire weekend at the office playing because it was so much fun.
Playing or sleeping on cots, taking turns? What were you doing?
We did not sleep very much this weekend.
Nice.
Yeah.
As it should be.
There's like,
Yeah.
so two of our devs, like Izzy and Tyler, actually spent 10 hours overnight holding the center keep in World vs. World because they did not want to lose it, so they did not sleep a lot.
Yep.
Excellent. First off, let's go around the room, and why don't you guys tell everybody what you do at Arenanet if they're unfamiliar with who you are.
Sure. I'll start. My name is Jonathan Sharp. I'm one of the system designers here. I work on all the systems, the combat, skills, traits, classes, all those types of things. So we work on the PvP, we work on the World vs. World, we help the guys in the dungeons to come up with great skills and stuff like that. So the system designers, we kind of bounce all around the game.
I'm Mike Zadorozhny. I'm a content designer, which means I'm basically the guy who's in there putting in the NPCs, the spawns, the events, the heart regions, and working like with the map artists and QA to make sure that it's the best thing we can do for you guys.
And I'm Martin Kerstein. I'm leading the community team here at Arenanet, and I'm here to make sure that those guys are not getting into trouble.
You have the hardest job of all, I think. All right, so not knowing who to field questions to, I will throw questions. You guys decide who answers them. I got to say, obviously the big news this week was the 48-hour beta signups. I guess, was this the result of the last weekend's beta test, or was this completely planned, or was this because of a successful press beta?
So we had plans, but obviously we were looking at the results we got out of the press beta, but the feedback we got out of it, and like by talking to the people playing and being in the guild chat with all the journalists, the feedback was so overwhelmingly good that we said, like, right, let's pull the trigger and let people sign up for a beta.
How about we have a lot of new viewers to GuildCast. There's a lot of people coming over from different MMOs. You know, maybe they play WoW, maybe they play something else, and they're just learning about Guild Wars 2. There's a lot of new ideas involved in it. What would some of you guys? What would you say to some people out there who maybe are playing something else and aren't familiar with the Guild Wars universe in general? Like, why would an MMO player want to come over and play Guild Wars 2?
We're really making the game super easy for players to just group together and explore the world, go through a living, breathing world that reacts to decisions that you're making on the fly. And the system is built in such a way that you don't even really need to be in the same party as somebody. Like your boons and buffs are going to actually apply to other players around you, even if they're not in the same party. So it's really bringing the social atmosphere of MMOs, you know, in one core fun exploration and crazy killfest.
Killfest. Yeah, I mean, Mike pretty much sums it up. I mean, the core design philosophy that we have is it should be fun to play with other people. You shouldn't have to fight over mobs. You shouldn't have to fight over loot. You should just share the experience with people and have a really good time. And that's kind of what we've built a game around, and we think that people are really starting to respond to it really well. So we're excited.
Yeah. Again, like my colleague said, it really is about basically bringing the social aspect back into MMOs. I mean, a lot of other games you actually don't like seeing other players. Like, it's like you think like, oh god, they're slowing down my progress. They're stealing my mobs, which means I get less XP. They're stealing my loot. in Guild Wars, basically, you are glad when you see other players because they might be up for something exciting, and everybody who is participating in our worldwide events gets rewarded. So it is actually beneficial to hang out with other people, even if you're not grouping with them, and just play along. So it's bringing back the whole social aspect that MMOs should have, putting it back in there.
And it was funny because in the beta event, that's exactly how how I experienced it was. You're not really expecting to be grouped up or playing with these other people, and then you just sort of like, get thrown into, what you'd say is a quest, but it's an event, and now you're playing with a bunch of people, and it is a very social experience. So the number one question we get asked at Gamebreaker is, should people play the original Guild Wars if they haven't played already? We get this just time and time again. Everybody's in such anticipation waiting for Guild Wars 2. Is it too late? Should people be jumping into Guild Wars 1? Is there a benefit?
Oh, yeah. I mean, so basically the world of Guild Wars 2 starts off about 250 years after Guild Wars 1. But players can still go into Guild Wars 1 and catch up on a lot of the old lore and a lot of the things that we continue and that we actually use to bolster the world of Guild Wars 2. You can find those things in Guild Wars 1. We also have a lot of rewards and things like that carry over in our Hall of Monuments. So if you can imagine, you kind of give things and bequeath things over to your ancestors in the world. So you can definitely play Guild Wars 1 now and get ready, get brushed up on the lore, and then you can be ready for GW2.
Yeah. And on the other hand, if you've never played Guild Wars 1, you will not be at a disadvantage in Guild Wars 2. It's more like there will be Easter eggs and certain bits and pieces of the world that people who are familiar with Guild Wars 1 will probably have like a nice, like, oh my god, I remember this area moment. It's just completely changed over 250 years. But people who have never played Guild Wars 1 will not have a gameplay disadvantage or anything. But having that said, you should all totally go and play Guild Wars 2.
For some reason, I knew you would say that. Let's talk about the Holy Trinity for a little bit. There's a lot of confusion amongst players who aren't familiar with it and maybe even following it. First of all, how did you guys come to the conclusion? Like, do you guys remember the brainstorming of Guild Wars 2 and sort of coming up with the concept of like, let's just break the Holy Trinity and let's try and get rid of it? Can you go back to that time and kind of tell us what that was like and what the thought process was?
I can give you an overview, sure. So basically, we were just sitting down, and a lot of Guild Wars 2 is us just looking at games, and a lot of us are gamers. And we said, what do we not like about the games that we play? What do we enjoy? What do we not enjoy? And having to have a dedicated healer, or a dedicated tank, or a dedicated DPS person to fill that role in every single group that we got into, it got really tedious. And there were just so many instances that we could remember where we have to log off because our healer just left, and we can't find another one right now. Like, that just sucks. So we said, okay, well, let's just take that, and let's say if we got rid of that healer, maybe we could still play without them, but we would just have to spread those abilities out to all the different classes. And that's kind of how the idea started was, hey, could we actually do that? Could we design a game built like that? And then we kept playing with it and testing it, and we said, wait, this could work. We think this could really work. That's kind of an overview quickly of how it happened over many, many years, but that's kind of what we've come to now.
How does it, and how will it work? Let's just say there's players out there that who actually enjoy acting primarily as, say, a tank or a healer. Can they play that play style as well?
Yeah, definitely. We don't have a dedicated healer in the way that other games will. An analogy that I've kind of enjoyed using is kind of basketball. If you can imagine in basketball, everybody can dribble the ball, everybody can rebound the ball, everybody can pass the ball, but you still have people who are better at maybe passing, better at dribbling, other people who might be better at rebounding, and those types of things. So while everybody can do it, the different classes have different strengths and weaknesses. So while you can still have somebody come in and support your allies and give up a lot of maybe their damage potential because they've taken the weapons to do that, or they've taken the traits and utility skills to do that, you can still help out in any way you want to, as long as you make those decisions. So all the classes can kind of help in varying ways. They just can't be complete specialists like in other games where you only heal, or you only DPS, or you only tank. That's something that we've kind of tried to get away from. So everybody can fill every role.
And it seems like it makes the whole experience for a lot of other players a little bit more dynamic, moving around and actually changing the gameplay up a lot more on the fly rather than just constantly watching bars, health bars, things like that if you're a healer, that kind of thing.
Yeah, we really saw that over this weekend too. I mean, it's just like playing the dungeons with a lot of the press and a lot of the players. If we ran into situations where somebody had to leave, we were able to adjust our strategies, swap out some utility skills, and we were just able to continue going through it. So it has really paid off for us in the long run.
So what do you think? Talk again about. Go ahead.
No, you go.
No, please go ahead.
No, I just want to say that one thing that falls into it, which was one of the great experiences over the last weekend as well, is that we don't use skills to basically revive fallen players or fallen NPCs. So everybody in the world can just run up and help people get back into the action. And you've seen this a lot. It's like even people that are not even participating, they were just running past, they saw somebody down on the ground, and they just helped them up again, and then ran their way. And so that's another of the cool things. Everybody can help other people.
Mm-hmm.
Another question we get a lot of, this one comes up a ton, is that a lot of raiders out there who play other MMOs and who call themselves raiders, they're asking us, you know, what is there for players who are a big part of, they're used to big raiding guilds and things like that in other MMOs who kind of race to that end game and do that. What's in Guild Wars 2 for them, or how should they sort of look at this?
So as one of those raiders, I can say that we're definitely trying to build some really complicated or not complicated, but very challenging content for players. We've got these massive event chains that will chain off of each other and will bring out these large bosses. I mean, we showed a couple of them off at previous events, Tequatl and the Shatterer. But you know, the versions that you guys saw are nothing like they're going to be in their final form. So we're definitely going to be ratcheting up the difficulty on some of these things and making it so players are going to really need to band together to bring these guys down.
Do you see the larger bosses as kind of the boss mob events almost replacing raiding in Guild Wars 2? Is that kind of what it is?
I don't know if it's replacing it, but we're just giving players another option of something that they can do. We still are going to have challenging content through either the dungeons, through the explorable modes and things like that, but we're definitely trying to find multiple ways to sate those kind of the appetites of those hardcore raiders.
This might be kind of a harder, like sort of a, maybe even like it's kind of more of a PR question almost, but how do you communicate that strongly to a lot of the players out there who aren't used to this? Because you guys are breaking the mold, right? Like there's a lot of things that you guys are doing differently. I finally got to play it, and I'm completely sold on it. Believe me, like I see everything that you're doing. I think is fantastic. How do you communicate that to the players who some of these things they're going like, I've been playing, you know, since Meridian 59. I've been playing since EverQuest, and like these things don't make sense to me.
We just have to communicate really well, which is one of the things that we're trying to do. I think anytime that you see, as you know, students of history, anytime that you see a paradigm shift trying to happen, it's got to be communicated to people. It's hard for people to let go of an old idea unless they feel like there's a new idea that they can really latch onto and believe in. So we're trying to communicate this idea to people through the blog posts, through interviews. You know, when we talk to you guys, we try to just say that, hey, we think that this can work. Here's how it's going to work, and we really feel like if you stick with it, this could actually be something that's really fun for all of us. So it's always awesome to hear players responding and saying that, hey, this actually does work the way that you guys said it did, and we're really blown away. And that's humbling for us to just say, hey, these ideas are working. You know, this is really exciting for us.
And that is 1,000% what happened to me over the weekend, because it was my first hands-on experience. We've been doing GuildCast. I've been following the game forever. I played Guild Wars 1. But I just, a lot of the things you guys were talking about just didn't totally register. From being an old school MMO player, a lot of these things were just like, yeah, that sounds great. Because you hear a lot of MMO companies like, oh, it sounds great on paper, You get the game, you're like, it's not really like that. And everything you guys have kind of said you're going to deliver on, I experienced. It was quite a fun ride. Let's talk about, we've heard about that you guys have like something like 1,500 plus dynamic events in the game that happen throughout the world. With that many dynamic events, first of all, is it safe to assume that the average player could miss a good portion of them or some of them?
You could, but that's what's kind of cool about our end game is that you can go back and you can play with your allies and your buddies. You can play in different regions. So maybe if you missed something the first time you went through, you can get sidekicked down to their level for whatever's good for that respective area, and you can play some stuff over again. So there's a lot to actually go and see again. So you might miss stuff on the first way through. You might not see everything. But because of how we do our sidekicking and our end game, you can go back and you can help your buddies, you can help them get through a new area, and you might see things that you didn't see the first time that you came through. So I'll let Mike talk about that more since he's the content guy. But
I mean that's part of it. I mean the level adjustment system that you saw this weekend when we had level 30 characters that were walking back into the the starting area for like the Norn, and they're basically having their levels dropped to kind of around the level of the content. I mean you still had your traits, you still had your skills, so you were more powerful. But you still had a fun time because you weren't just like overpowering everything to the the 10th degree. And this gives you a chance, like if you want to go experience another storyline, if you want to you played the human, now you want to try the Silvari, you want to try the Norn or the Asura. I mean this gives you a chance to replay through some of those zones, and it's not going to be the same experience. You never are 100% sure what you're going to run into when you go out and play.
And the beauty of the system is you don't even know that you missed something, right? So it's because you just explore the world and you happen upon these things, and it might be different. Like, so I had this experience over this weekend. Like, I was too tired at one evening, so I logged out, and I logged in the next day, and all of a sudden there was like all sorts of things happening around me because there were events happening in the world. It was like, hey, that was not here when I logged off last night.
Right.
So you just like happen upon content in a very organic, natural way. So it doesn't even feel like you're missing something, if that makes sense.
Is there a specific, like, I'm trying to understand what's actually the motivation, say, for a max level player to want to go back and check them out? Is it just because they're going to be so cool? I know with the sidekicking you're going to sort of like, level down and then feel like, they're challenging. Is there motivation there to go do that?
Well, so each of the heart NPCs or the heart regions that we have, when you complete them, the NPC turns into a karma vendor, which allows you to kind of spend some of the karma currency that you get from either completing the hearts or from doing the events. And so the idea is that there's stuff to do for the map. People who want to have 100% completion, there's points of interest to go explore. There's waypoints to unlock. So the completionist game is there for those kinds of people who want to go back and feel things. Plus, I mean, pretty much, one or two per map. There's some really, really epic, boss fight encounters that are really fun to do. So
talking, this kind of might be a little bit of a technical question, if you guys can answer. But talking about thinking about massive amounts of players on the screen and things like that, especially with WVW. How do you guys deal with combating latency? Because that's like a huge thing, obviously, for PvPers.
Right.
How do you deal with that within WVW with so many massive amounts of players?
Sure, it is more of a technical question. Been in some of those meetings, but programmers could obviously give you better answers on the details. But having said that, what we try to do is we try to look at the things for your character that are most important. That impact you, and then we say, okay, that these are the things that should take precedence as far as what you're seeing, and then we can kind of tone down some of the effects for things in the background. So what this allows us to do is it allows us to get a lot of people in one area and still show you what's impacting you without making you feel like, oh, I'm going to be completely overwhelmed by all these effects and everything in the world. So we do have some systems kind of under the hood that are doing that for you, but again, it's super technical. I could get into all the details, but I need a programmer here to make sure that it's I'm not giving away some secrets.
Fair enough,
yeah, we do have
enough.
some ways to deal with it.
Fair
Sorry
enough.
about that.
And currently, Conquest is the only structured PvP map style that we've seen. I mean, obviously, can we look forward to some other maps being implemented in the future?
Yeah, we've talked about it. Right now, we do have two Conquest maps that are in-house and are good to go. You guys have seen Siege. That's the one that we've actually shown in some other places. That's the Battle of Kylo. And that's really cool. It's got the trebuchets and all that stuff. We've also got other maps that, while they do use the Conquest as the central mechanic, the secondary mechanic for each of those maps changes the gameplay dramatically. So while we do only have the Conquest, the secondary mechanic actually makes all these maps feel really, really different. And that was really, for me, I'm the guy who does the PvP stuff. So it was really exciting this weekend to get to play with people, teach them PvP, do one-on-ones, and get like a line of doing one-on-ones and showing people how to play their characters and stuff like that. And then just having them jump into a game and just being blown away by the different maps that we had. And then they would come back and say, I could understand these maps, I knew how the Conquest worked in both of them, but then I had to learn this secondary mechanic. And once I learned that, I felt like I was playing two completely different games that had the same engine, if you will, under the hood, which was the Conquest mechanic. So we feel like it's really working well. We're really excited about that part. I'm personally excited about that part.
Are you able to expand at all on what some of these secondary objectives might be that change the map? Can you talk about that?
Yeah, sure. So we have some stuff, if you can imagine, we have some underwater maps that we're testing. So you have the underwater mechanic of fighting underwater. So instead of just having your above land weapons, you would also have underwater weapons, which brings its own gameplay changes to it because you're fighting in a 3D space all of a sudden. We've got some other maps where we have these really powerful NPCs spread throughout the map, and by dealing with those NPCs and controlling those NPCs, you're actually able to get some really powerful buffs that help you score and to help you dominate the other team. So this weekend we were seeing tons of people playing on one of our maps, where I think we've actually released some info on it on the forest map. People were just learning how to just protect those NPCs. You'd have huge fights over the NPCs, and you'd have teams coordinating of like, get them down, if you guys are coming from the back, hold them off, control these guys. Somebody else is coming from another side, control those guys, hold them off, try to get the hit. We're trying to get the NPC down. And on top of that, they're also trying to control the 3 cap points. And it was just really fun to watch the strategies and tactics that we're developing over just the weekend. Like the meta had already shifted and changed. I was in there just watching it game after game after game and watching people figure out how to play this map differently than how they play Kylo.
You can tell Jonathan is really excited about this.
Sorry, I'm
just hey, it's your baby. You're excited about your babies. So underwater PvP, is that a confirmation? Did I just hear that? Is that new news? I don't know if we've heard that. We speculated on it.
We're playing it. That's one of the things that we're trying right here, and we think that underwater can work for our PvP. So
awesome. There you go.
We are going to try to push that through.
All right. I got one exclusive piece of information out of them. All right. Bravo. One thing I was super impressed with, we talked about a lot of this on GuildCast this week, and this week in MMO, we're going to talk about it a lot. Actually, it's dropping right now on the website, so if you guys want to go watch it, this week in MMO dropping right now. But I was really impressed by how alive the capital cities felt. I've been playing MMO since EverQuest, and I've always been kind of an explorer, but I feel like that's been lost for me in recent years. I haven't found an MMO that kind of dropped me in and just made me want to go around every nook and cranny and back alley and listen to the conversations. And the way when I dropped into Guild Wars 2, especially like in Divinity's Reach and stuff, just started running around, and the flavor and everything that's going on. I mean, role players are going to absolutely freak. They're going to love it. But even
that's these guys, yeah.
But even the average player, I think, isn't so much used to this, because it really does. I mean, you guys have paid so much attention to detail on the amount of NPCs walking around, the background conversation. I mean, what motivated you guys? What motivated the team to really just go the extra mile with giving that sense of a virtual world?
Well, I think we knew from the very beginning we wanted to bring the world to life. We wanted people to feel like this was a world that was living even if the player wasn't there. And so from that aspect, you have to kind of give NPCs character. You have to give them a personality and have them having real-life interactions. And what are you going to do in the cities? And so we kind of took a look at it from that standpoint. And I mean, this was a massive effort from the writers being able to write some of the idle scenes that you'll see in the background, to being spearheaded by two designers, Matthew Medina and Kim Kirsch, who really spawned those the cities and gave them that feel. And then they're working with the map artists to kind of how do we really bring out the essence of making each section of the city feel like people actually live there, from the props to kind of just the flavor of making sure each place feels different and unique. So I mean, and then on top of that, you've got the rest of the designers and everybody else kind of piling in on this. So it was a decision early on. We wanted to make the world feel alive, and we've just been playing, building on top of that ever since.
Yeah, and there's a mystique, there's a mysterious quality to things. Like when I rolled up on that area in Divinity's Reach, I can't remember what it's called. Where it says the Great Collapse, I think it was called, right? Where everything is just. Yep. And I remember going like, I wonder what the hell happened here. And then I hear two people going like, wow, they were wondering what happened here. Like they don't, and it really just intrigues you to wonder like, what's the story here? Like things like that. I wonder what's happening, and I wonder if are we going to see things like that unfold?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we're definitely going to be having, we want to have these stories that will explain things and build on top of the world. And so we're definitely leaving some breadcrumbs for players to run around and have fun with, and you'll definitely see some of these stories pan out.
Yep.
All right, so let's talk about the player's personal story in Guild Wars 2, and how much background choices at character creation actually affected. I mean, will players be making choices throughout the story that really change things for the long term?
Yes, they'll actually be making choices on the actual stories that they'll be playing on later. So let's say that you are, let's give an example, let's say that you are a human and you're deciding which of the quests, where were you raised? Were you born in the streets? Were you born as the upper echelon, of the financial world, of divinity, or what have you, the human world? Those things actually play into some of the choices that you get later down in your story. The same thing for the Norm, the same thing for the Char. Like there are just these questions are going to decide later when, let's say that you're playing the Char and the Ridlock comes to you and said, hey, I've just received some information about your father. You answer a question in your Mad Lib about who you think your father was, who you've been told who your father was, and then based off of that choice, you get to play a different storyline. So it's really cool.
Yeah, some of the decisions will actually pay off right away, and then some of them will actually come down the road as well. So. And that is in addition to the fact that, while you're going through the personal storyline, you're also going to be asked questions, and those answers are also going to directly impact your story as well.
How, let's jumping back, I'm going to jump to combat a little bit. The dodge mechanic, I got to say, another thing I was kind of blown away with, and especially not having to tab target mobs and dodging. First of all, how important do you guys think dodging is going to be both in PvE and PvP?
Oh my lord! It is absolutely crucial that you learn how to dodge. It's one of the things we try to teach players, in all aspects of the game, and it is really important. It allows you to have a short amount of speed boost because you're moving a little bit faster, but it also allows you to evade incoming attacks. And this is really important for playing in the dungeons or playing in events or playing in competitive PvP or World v World. It's used everywhere. So that's part of being a good player is learn how to use that dodge.
I can tell you that of all the dungeon runs I did over the weekend, the groups that understood the dodge mechanic were much more successful than the ones who couldn't.
Yeah, we've seen some feedback from players and fans, like watching all the video coverage that came out of the test, like, oh look, those guys are just standing around and pressing the number 1 skill. Yeah, you might get away with this for like maybe the first 3-4 levels, but I promise if you not learn how to dodge out of the way, you will be in for a lot of pain like later on.
Are you guys finding that, like, when you play, because like what I brought up before, you don't have to actually really tab target lock onto a target. You can just swing in the general direction and hit them. And that, coupled with the dodge ability, really gave the sense of an action MMO, where I was utilizing my play field a lot more than normal, dodging, rolling, moving around, things like that. Is that's also,
Yeah.
I imagine that's also going to be crucial to the entire thing, is using the battlefield to much more to your advantage?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about. Go ahead.
So one of I'm not even a designer, but so you could probably comment. But by talking to Eric, is like one of the main goals we also have, and that's why you see a lot of visual things in our game, and that also plays into battlefield awareness. Is like we want to actually make you look at the screen, right, at the center of the screen where your character is, and not make you look like at a UI or at like just bars going up and down. So. And with these visual cues that you have, and that also teaches you how to get battlefield awareness, like positioning, movement, avoiding routes from like the NPCs or like whatever they try to do, dodging out of AoEs, which are signals on the ground. That all makes the whole combat very dynamic. I actually got, personal experience, a friend of mine was also playing along, and he's a Guild Wars 1 player, and he's like, what happened to lazy gaming? I just like hit the space bar and attack something, and then I can basically eat a sandwich at the same time. It's like, nope, we're not doing this anymore. You actually fighting now. You're involved. Like you actually feel like you do something. So,
tell me a little bit about the trait system. For those who didn't get to play and haven't gotten their hands on it yet, tell me a little bit about how it works and how it may differ from like talent trees and things we may have seen in other games.
Sure. So some of the cool stuff about our traits is what we want to do with traits is we want it to be the way that we say it internally is we don't like to have a lot of spreadsheet decisions. We want to have a lot of toolbox decisions. So what we try to talk about is, okay, if players are in this situation, that let's say that they have 18 different types of screwdrivers that they can have. Well, that's not really interesting if they really just want to smash through a window. But if all of a sudden we give you a hammer, you're like, oh yeah, a hammer, this makes sense, this is intuitive. I just need to throw this through this window. So what we try to do is we try to make traits that can really change up your build, and they do so in intuitive ways so that you have like, oh, I need a saw right now. Let me see, oh, I have this trait that kind of gives me a saw. Let me try that. It's a loose analogy, kind of off the cuff, but it kind of explains what we're thinking with the traits. We want to give you intuitive things that make sense, that are really fun.
I feel a sudden urge to go to a Home Depot.
Another question we get here a lot, for new players especially. They hear us talking about it. They hear about all the mechanics, the dynamic events, the open world, and then they find out that they're going to buy a box and not have to pay for a subscription. And then their mind is like blown and also skeptical because they're like, right. What do you mean? I have to pay $15 for all these other MMOs. I know it hasn't even launched yet. I'm asking you guys about support, but it's a question that gets asked a lot about. There's a slight fear amongst players who don't know too much about the game that may think that, like, does that mean that the game won't be supported? We've reiterated that we know it's not going to because we followed you guys from Guild Wars 1, but there still comes up the question. Can you guys talk a little bit about the support post-launch?
Well, we have announced that we're going to be, we're going to have a live team. So there is going to be a group of people that are going to be, dedicated to updating and adding new content, adding additional events, and making the world, feel that much more alive even post-launch. So I mean, we've been supporting Guild Wars 1 all the way through till now, so you can expect us to be supporting Guild Wars 2 for long after launch.
Yep.
Any official forums in the plans? A lot of people asking that. Official forums? Gonna do it? Not gonna do it? Don't know.
Something I can't comment on. It's something I can neither confirm nor deny at this point in time.
There's like a couple of questions I have to ask or I'll be lynched. It's like, are there going to be forums? Are you going to tell me a release date? Tell you about the cash? All the questions. I'm leaving all these questions for can't talk about it. Can't talk about it.
So can't comment when it's ready. What was the third one?
Microtransactions, cash shop.
Yeah, can't comment.
Can't comment. I think I got
Keep
all.
going. This is easy.
Yeah. I'm trying to get them all out of the way. Where at the end of the interview, I'm just like, is there anything else that I gotta ask that I know you guys aren't going to talk to me about? Okay, no, okay. What are you guys doing to prepare for the weekend? Not sleeping.
For this weekend or
for the beta weekend?
What do we do to prepare?
Yeah. Yeah, just like roll out cots and sleeping bags, Mountain Dew, and Cheetos, and just
Mountain Dew. I actually did a lot of like trying to work out those first few days beforehand because I knew that over the weekend I would not work out at all. So I got in a run and a really good workout, and then I said, okay, now we're at the office for 3 days.
You treat it like a boxing fight and actually prepare for it.
I mean, the other thing is, like, we all, like, most of the company hunkered down as soon as we knew that the build was locked down and it was getting ready for the event.
We played a lot.
We just pounded on it and tried to find issues. We found some pretty, glaring ones that we fixed really quickly and make sure that it was going to be stable for the players when they actually got in. So it was a huge company-wide effort to make sure this thing was going to be ready for you guys.
Any back-end technical
Go
ahead.
Just like the one thing that made, actually without a lot of sleep, made this whole weekend really easy was like you guys' reaction, right? So it's like we opened the servers and people were coming in and we're like, hey guys, how's it going? And then there was such a high level of energy, like from playing along with everybody, that everybody in the studio was just like, I just do another hour. So I was like, after I got home, basically, I took a shower and then like logged back in from home and played for another 3 hours and then just slept a little bit and then went back to the office. So
yeah, I mean, it was the other kind of funny aspect of it was like at the very beginning, we were really cautious, asking, hey, how's it going? Are you having a good time? We're really cautious. We're like, no, quiet. I'm playing the game. I want to go focus on the game. So we learned pretty early on, like,
that energy has extended. I can tell you from just the reaction that we've seen on Gamebreaker that they cannot get enough of the footage. Our traffic is just, people are just through the roof, and that's all that they're looking at. That's all anyone is paying attention to is everything. They want everything Guild Wars 2 right now, nonstop. So, guys, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show. I'd love to do this again, do some follow-ups, post-beta.
Yeah.
But excellent. Congrats, and can't wait for the next beta event.
I mean, you guys are excited, but to be honest, I think we're actually more excited internally. Like, to get to see you guys play with us and to see you guys smile and talk about it and laugh with us, it says the things you've been doing for the last few years, you've been trying some crazy things, it's vindicated, and we're having fun and we love it. I think it actually means more to us than it does to you guys to get to play beta.
Oh, I'm
we
sure.
Love it. We love it.
2 years and years of your life for this baby. So when you let it out into the world,
Exactly.
you let it out into the world and it becomes a whole different beast, right? So I can't wait for you guys to see it. I can't wait to see it on shelves. I can't wait to play it. I know everybody else can. Guys, thank you so much again for this GuildCast special. We will check in with you guys again as soon as.
One last quick thing.
Yes.
The beta signups are on right now. Make sure you go check out the website. It'll be closing tomorrow morning, so get in now.
So if you haven't played it yet, just get on beta.guildwars.com and
Guildwars2.com.
Guildwars2.com. Oh my god. beta.guildwars2.com and sign up to get a chance to play in the next beta event.
Sign up. Sign up. Go right now. Go to Guild Wars to sign up for the beta. What's up?
Also, we really love you guys.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. Love you guys as well. Talk to you guys soon. Have a great one. Chat room, everybody else, thank you so much for watching. Hope you had a good time. And go sign up for beta because you don't want to miss it. See you guys later.
See you, man.
Bye.
Bye.